Introduction. Great leaders are made, not born, and Effective Communication and Soft Skills shows you the blueprint. Let us get into it. We will focus on what it says about communication and skills. Stay with me, the best part is near the end. Overall summary. In the phraseology of communication skill theory, these skills are called soft skills. These skills are of two kinds, namely, soft skills and hard skills. Soft skills are important in addition to hard skills. One of the most vital soft skills required by a teacher is communication. According to the expert panel on skills, 4 categories of soft skills are essential skills, management skills, leadership skills, and contextual skills. Nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is the most basic form of communication. Chapter 1: Communication and Skills. She has authored a book on communication skills and has written several papers in national and international journals. Hard skills are quantitative, while soft skills are subjective in nature. The book is an endeavor to study and understand the attributes of good communication vis soft skills and hard skills, how to inculcate them and use them practically in contemporary life. The fundamental tenet behind all the types of skills is communication. The discussion highlights the meaning and definitions of communication, along with the dimensions of intrapersonal, interpersonal, group, and mass communication. The chapter analyses various models of communication, its processes, barriers, theories, the basic forms of nonverbal communication, and the influencing factors. After throwing light on the fundamentals of communication in Chapter 2, Chapter 3 acquaints you with the various channels of communication, providing an in-depth knowledge of the process, qualities, and the modes of communication. The channels of communication familiarize the reader with the psychological, social, and motivational aspects of communication, focusing on how communication works. This is followed by an evaluation of language and day-to-day communication, along with an explanation of persuasive communication. This chapter deals with the psychology of communication. The personality of the speaker and the receiver plays an important role in the communication process. Differences in the traits of personalities affect communication in various interpersonal settings. Communication is crucial to professional success of all kinds. Effective communication is a skill that can be developed by one and all. This chapter provides an in-depth account of the spoken element of communication skills in English. Writing is a significant feature of communication. Soft skills are the emotional sine qua non of psychological survival. All these aspects fall under the domain of soft skills. It is imperative to examine what exactly soft skills are, how they differ from hard skills, and why they are important to students. Soft skills are as important and often even more important than technological skills for an individual to succeed. One can achieve synergy if one can combine both hard and soft skills. They include the technical or hard skills referred above, and then 4 categories of soft skills. Managerial skills are essential for teachers and academic administrators. Chapter 2: Skills and Soft. To them, the most important skills, rating over %, were basic skills, thinking skills, personal quality skills, and interpersonal competencies. Technology competencies and systems competencies rated the lowest at % and % respectively, Richens and McLean 2000. Soft skills are important to students for various reasons. Hence, the need is for a continuous renewal of soft skills in teaching and training the students. The results of one study on the opinion of the importance of soft skills indicated that the single most important soft skill for a candidate in a job interview to possess was interpersonal skills. This was followed by written or verbal communication skills and the ability to work under pressure. Technical skills and knowledge were found to be at the bottom of the list. This kind of traditional learning system does not focus on the importance of soft skills. To be an effective teacher, one should have both hard and soft skills. Possessing good soft skills will always strengthen teachers' confidence. To inculcate soft skills in students, teachers themselves should be equipped with soft skills. In addition to communication, soft skills such as mentoring and coaching are the essential prerequisites of a teacher. This is because of his or her excellent soft skills. Hence, many of the critical skills are taught while in school, including not only academic skills but also soft skills such as social skills, teamwork, taking responsibility, following directions, attitude, and good attendance. Soft skills come naturally to some people, or they can be learnt and consequently applied in practice. New skills are added in progression. The other school of thought holds the view that soft skills can be learned. The training of soft skills is more nebulous and requires a considerable investment of time to acquire efficiency. The training begins with topics such as listening skills, assertiveness skills, conflict management skills, communication and other interpersonal skills should likewise be included in the course curriculum. Hence, teaching, training, evaluation, and a considerable follow-up of soft skills have to be integrated in the learning system. The case for improving soft skills is compelling, although it is worthwhile to remember that they are not a replacement for hard or technical skills. Soft skills are also interpersonal competencies and are as important as hard skills. Soft skills are important for students in handling interpersonal relations, choosing a career and making appropriate decisions, and communicating effectively. Teachers play a significant role in inculcating soft skills such as communication skills, assertiveness skills, and conflict resolution skills. Chapter 3: Communication and Group. After reading this chapter, you will be familiar with the meaning and definition of communication, the dimensions and models of communication, the basic forms and processes of communication. Importance of communication in the academic setting. Expression is the basic tenet of human communication. All means of communication should therefore be clear enough to stimulate action. Poor communication will only result in poor response. Communication is employed extensively in the process of all types of interactions: social, educational, and official. Communication is the story of man and his efforts to express effectively. Let us consider how researchers working on communication have formulated the various definitions of communication. Communication is the sum of all the things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. It can be seen that each of the definitions of communication seems to be self-sufficient. Communication has four broad dimensions, namely intrapersonal, interpersonal, group, and mass communication. Each of these dimensions contributes to the process of developing good communication skills. It is a reflection of interpersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication is the first step towards interpersonal communication. Communication is now seen as a transaction in which both parties are active. As mentioned earlier, interpersonal communication is a reflection of intrapersonal communication. Sometimes problems in interpersonal communication result in problems related to intrapersonal communication. It is observed that most people who write about interpersonal communication appear to insist that the more communication one has, the better his/her relations will be. Not all communication theorists agree on a definition of small group communication: how many people make up a group, what differences there are between dyads and other number of people in communication, etc. A teacher and an academic consultant play a vital role in enhancing group interaction and group communication. It is essential for him to understand group communication and group dynamics. Teachers need to pay careful attention to group communication, which is a sensitive issue. Group communication in the academic setting cannot be ignored in view of its relevance and importance. While mass media study is beyond the scope of our chapter, there are many ties between interpersonal communication and mass communication. Communication sequences are punctuated while communication events are continuous transactions. Chapter 4: Communication and Process. Many influences and models have shaped the field of human communication. It is only through communication that we can realize our social potential. Without communication, we would all be evolutionary misfits. Before taking stock of the present understanding of the process of human communication, it will be useful to review briefly the major threads that run through the various approaches to the study of human communication. The whole activity of communication is centered on the one-way action of doing something to someone. The emphasis is on the sender and his/her encoding skills. This is an ineffective model of communication from the academic point of view. Communication is not the static picture-like view of still photography. In a transactional view of communication, you are the cause and effect, stimulus and response, sender and receiver. Whether you are speaking or writing, listening or reading, communication is more than a single act. An active process of transforming the idea/concept into a message is the second phase of the process of communication. To do so, a communication channel is used, which involves both verbal and nonverbal communication. In the third phase of the process of communication, the teacher communicates the concept to his students. The receiver gets the message. For communication to occur, your receiver must first get the message. This understanding is nothing but interpretation according to communication researchers. Feedback is the key element in the communication process because it enables you to evaluate the effectiveness of your message. This is how the process of communication is completed. Communication is successful only when the receiver understands the message as intended by the sender/teacher. For example, noise is an interference in the communication process that distorts or obscures the sender's/teacher's meaning. These annoyances do not block communication, but they may reduce the receiver's concentration. Communication occurs in many forms. Communication can be formal or informal, spoken or written, and internal or external. Nonverbal communication is the most basic form of communication. Chapter 5: Communication and Nonverbal. Nonverbal communication differs from verbal communication in fundamental ways. Good communicators recognize the value of nonverbal communication and use it to enhance the communication process. One of the famous communication researchers, Virginia Johnson, holds the view that nonverbal communication is so reliable that people have more faith in nonverbal cues than they do in verbal messages. It can also be argued that nonverbal communication is not reliable. Sometimes nonverbal communication alone may occur without verbal communication. Nonverbal communication is important for another reason. Characteristics of nonverbal communication. Researchers have identified some characteristics of nonverbal communication. These may be found in all forms of nonverbal communication and should provide a kind of framework through which the specifics of nonverbal communication may be viewed. This observation is true of all forms of communication, but it seems true of nonverbal communication. The important difference between the nonverbal communication and the verbal statements here should be noticed. The nonverbal communication, however, is also more convenient from the point of view of the teacher. Like verbal communication, nonverbal communication exists in a context, and that context helps to determine the meanings of any nonverbal behavior. Verbal communication consists of words arranged in meaningful patterns. Therefore, language is the main aspect of verbal communication. The 6 characteristics of verbal communication are: I. Specialization and productivity, 2. Displacement, 3. Rapid fading, 4. Arbitrariness, v. Cultural transmission. Specialization and productivity. Language is a specialized communication system and it produces creative responses and learned utterances. Of all the functions of language, the communication of one person's meaning to another is surely the most significant. Although a variety of types of meanings may be identified, two general types essential to identify in communication: denotation and connotation. Educationists have witnessed that people tend to prefer oral communication channels to written ones. The most common types of written communication are letters, memos, reports, and proposals. Over the past few decades, technological advances have led to the development of electronic communication. However, each form of communication also has its limitations. A common experience between two or more people is essential for an effective communication. Closing. That is the heart of effective communication and soft skills. If it helped, a quick subscribe keeps more summaries coming. So how do communication and skills connect? That is exactly where we started. Go back to the top and watch it click into place.